Emily.
I'm Kirsten.
And we are the Joy
Junkies.
Junkies. And we're kind of cheesy if you can't tell.
So, welcome back to episode 3.
Yes, welcome.
What have we done so far?
Well, we have already spoken with you, hopefully, about what joy is. Defining joy, hashing that out. What does that look like? What is that in our world? What does that mean for our bodies? I love that one because I'm all about sense. I'm so sensory and I love texture. And then,
We're together.
we really,
Being together.
Yes, being glad is glad community to be with one another.
That's right. So,
Yes.
in episode 2, we talked about what the joy blockers are. Joy blockers are those negative emotions, the distressing emotions that kind of keep us from relationships. So, whether that's anger, fear, disgust, sadness, shame, or hopeless despair. That was awesome. Thank you for that. We hope that you're not in hopeless despair. We are obviously not in hopeless despair. And so in that episode 2, we talked about how negative, distressing emotions can exist with joy. And it's kind of important that we learn how to do that. And this episode, what we want to talk about is...
We want to talk about the pillars of joy.
Right, so the things that hold joy up.
Yeah, and we have
strength.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4
Right.
pillars, and today we're going to talk about 2 of those.
Right, 2 this time, 2 next time. So the pillars of joy, the things that give joy strength. The 2 we're going to talk about today are forgiveness and innocent perception. And what I like about those are that they are sort of interrelated. You can't really have innocent perception without forgiveness, and you can't really have forgiveness without innocent perception.
Yeah.
So let's talk for just a minute. Like, we could do a whole episode on each one of them, and we probably will someday, don't worry. But let's talk, just keep it on a really high level about forgiveness. Look, what is forgiveness?
Extending grace and mercy.
Oh, so it's an extension.
It's
like
an
you're
extension.
giving something good.
It's freely given.
Right. It is, well, it has to be freely given, because normally, in order for forgiveness to be real, it's not really going to be earned, right? They may not even be sorry. Oh, that's the hard part. Because forgiveness is letting go of my right to hold you accountable. And often when we're not being forgiving, we are holding on to revenge and our desire to harm or bring harm or see harm brought to somebody else. And remember, I like disgust. If you watched our other episodes, disgust usually is harboring unforgiveness.
Yeah.
And not letting
No
the other
wonder
person
I
go.
relate to her so much.
Yeah. Kidding me,
Sometimes.
So, and we're not
Been
here
there.
to say that forgiveness is easy. We're not
Obviously.
here to say that.
We just said how great disgust is and
That's
how much she
right.
cracks us up.
And we're not here to say that all forgiveness is equal or that the results of all forgiveness is equal. Because there are times when you can forgive, but the renewal of the relationship is not going to be the same. So don't get us wrong when we're talking about forgiveness. But what we want to talk about is how forgiveness affects us.
Yeah.
So when I forgive, it allows me not to spend energy on negative emotions that keep me from having the strength of joy.
Right. And so would this be a good time to bring up how unforgiveness is like a prison?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Unforgiveness is like a prison. Yeah, and it holds oneself captive to, what would you call it? It holds
To the pain.
Yeah, that's it. To the blockers to joy. Holds
Right.
you captive to those.
Right. And if we're living with unforgiveness, it's existing inside of us in all of our relationships. Even though I might be having an okay relationship with everybody else, the unforgiveness that I'm harboring towards someone is going to affect all of my
Still there.
relationship. So I'm withholding a part of me. I can't give myself fully to others. And if we remember that joy is relational, if I can't give myself fully to others, then I'm going to have to make some adjustments. So that's why forgiveness is a pillar of joy. I think the other thing I wanted to talk about from a forgiveness standpoint, or the thing that I found is, I think forgiveness is like a bridge over troubled waters, right? The trouble may not be gone. It may still exist.
Oh, yeah.
And when I think about a bridge, I think about, there are a lot of different kinds of bridges. One of the scariest kinds of bridges is a rope bridge. Like, it's just made out of rope.
But that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to go on one.
They're
someday.
super cool, but
In the forest.
they don't
The
feel
rainforest.
like they're all of that.
They're risky.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk to it. The kind of bridges that I like are those ones that have like super highways on them. You know, they're made of concrete and steel and they feel really secure. But I don't think that forgiveness often feels like that, at least not initially, and at least not until it's like super, super practiced.
Yeah.
But that bridge over troubled waters really makes it, I think what you said, maybe in an earlier conversation, was that it makes the relationship more important than the pain
And the problem.
that
You might be facing with that person.
So it values the person
And the relationship above everything else.
That's right. Puts them up above. And so we were talking as we were sort of planning for this and thinking about just our own relationship and how we share a lot of the same values and we share a lot of the same ideas. But even we have issues with relationship, and sometimes, you know, like something that one of us says could be hurtful to the other person. And it would be easy to sort of nurture the pain or the fear or the disgust or the sadness. But it's the forgiveness that brings us back together and says, letting go of my right to hold you accountable.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely. I think in every relationship, it might be your very best friend, it might be your mom, it might be your sister, it might be your father. It's often those
you don't
that
have a husband yet, but it could be a husband or a child.
It's often those that we love the very most that may wound us, often do. And it is in these relationships that we have prime opportunity to experience forgiveness and grow in freedom with that person, and essentially with everybody. And so the community. So forgiveness is a critical pillar of joy. Critical.
It is.
Yeah.
The other thing I think about forgiveness that ties it to innocent perception is, well, let's talk about innocent perception, and then we'll talk about why they tie together. Innocent perception?
Yeah.
Oh, I love innocent perception. When I learned about this, my life became so full and so abundant. So innocent perception is a childlike awareness of the world.
Yes.
It's a childlike view of the world. It's just you're not tainted by criticisms and judgments, and you're looking at things with really fresh eyes, with, what is it, awe and wonder?
Yeah. I think whenever I think of innocent perception, I think of my sister, actually, because my sister has autism. She has special needs, and she's someone who has a very innocent perception of the world, and consequently, she's probably the most joyful person I've ever met in my life. Honestly, she is great at joy building. Usually, she's human too,
Right.
but
Just fewer distractions.
she does, and she doesn't know. I mean, she doesn't really hold a grudge. And that completely links to our forgiveness aspect.
It does, because
they're intertwined.
When we're holding unforgiveness, we're going to be critical and judging and closed off. But innocent perception, like, receives the world without criticism. Like, it just goes out and it just looks with awe at everything.
Yeah.
I think of some of my photographer friends who capture nature in so many amazing ways. You do that. You have some friends that do that.
Yes.
You just go out and you're just looking at nature in a different way.
Yeah, it's just eyes to see.
And you're looking at people in a different way. So because joy is relational,
Yeah.
I think that you see people more with a wholeness and a fullness, and
Yeah.
you're not like being critical of, you know, the way they
Their flaws,
talk
their weaknesses.
right.
You don't see that as much. You just
Well, it doesn't impact you as much. You actually
Yeah.
appreciate it as part of their character, and not so much as the way that they're annoying you.
yeah.
Because disgust finds people's characters flaws. They find it annoying.
It's true.
Yeah.
Um,
Which,
yeah.
when I'm being critical, I have to exercise a lot of forgiveness. So innocent perception is actually very healthy
It's
for forgiveness.
huge, and it's something that personally I have grown in, and I want to grow even more in innocent perception, because I realized that we were all intended to perceive innocently. That is such a fundamental part of our human anthropology. That really, I think, having joy to the full often includes such innocent perception. Imagine, and I'll even give an example. I'd love to give an analogy. Imagine, like, maybe a little child who's about 2 years old, and you pull out some bubbles
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you pull out some bubbles and you start blowing them. And what does that child do? That child just erupts with joy. And they giggle. And they're trying to catch them. And they just want to enter into what they're seeing. And and I think that even ties to beauty. You know, that innocent perception allows us to see beauty. And who doesn't love beauty?
Well, when I first really attached to this idea of innocent perception, I have grandchildren. And I think it was my granddaughter. I think she's 11 now. But she was really young, like maybe 2. And our yard had those yellow flowers in them that some people think are weeds, but
no, I love those. I know what you're talking about.
They're dandelions. They're just part of our regular mowing. But she brought me like a whole handful, little handfuls. There's probably 5 or 6 of them, right? And the minute that you pick a dandelion, it already starts to wilt, right? Yeah. And so she brought me this little handful of dandelions as if they were the most precious little gift that she had ever had, right? She was just so delighted that she had picked them. And I was like kind of struggling with, these are dandelions, right? And I was like, oh, and for me, this is my experience in that moment. I thought, how much stuff do I pick in life? And I think I'm doing all this good stuff for God. And really, it's just like dandelions. And God receives me with delight.
Yes, I was just going to say, delight is tied to innocent perception.
Yeah, and so I was like, in that moment, my heart was just checked, and I was just totally engaged with innocent perception. And I was then delighted to receive the dandelions.
And that's when you can actually see the beauty with wonder and awe.
Well, and then not only could I see the beauty of the dandelion, but I could also see the beauty of the gift. Yes. And so it was connecting for me and my granddaughter to have that experience.
In other words, this triggered Kirsten's relational circuits to very much come on in her brain.
Yes.
How adorable is that?
That's so cool.
For your cute story of the day.
It is a cute story of the day, and it makes me want to go get some bubbles, because we don't have to get a bubble machine. We might have to leave our Joy Junkies and go get a bubble machine and chase the bubbles. How much fun would that be? Let's do it.
She's the grandma.
Well,
she's young at heart because she has innocent perception. That's half the reason why we get along so well.
That's right. So we should do the big question for our comment section, because we're gonna ask you to comment on our video.
Please, we want to know what you think and how you feel.
So tell us what you tell them what the big question is.
Well, I will propose this question to you, and I hope that you will let us know what you think. We want to know, what do you think is an advantage of having innocent perception?
Yeah, we gave you some examples. You give us some.
Yeah, please do. Thank you so much for joining us this episode.
Yeah, we're happy that you
came delight.
Back. This is the 3rd episode. You came back for 3rd. And we want to remind you that if you have comments, you have questions, you have an idea for an episode for us, because now you're going to get the idea of what we're doing.
Yeah.
We would like you to email us. It's the number 2 JoyJunkies. So 2 JoyJunkies, 2 JoyJunkies @gmail.com.
How many?
So, 2. 1, 2. And maybe we're going to figure out, cheers.
To you.
To you too. And maybe someday we'll give you a way to join us, so it won't be just be 2, but we'll have a whole tribe. How fun would that be if you could join us with our Joy Junkie journey?
Yeah. There is a tribe.
Oh.
There is a tribe.
I'll tell you more about that later. All right. Take care. Have a happy, joyful day. Bye-bye.